I have a story that bothers me a little bit, and so I'm going to go over it with you guys. It's the story about Jacob. Now, you can join me in Genesis 30:25. And this is the story about Jacob making a deal with Laban about what he is going to get paid. He, first of all, he works 7 years for Rachel, and then he gets given Leah, right? Super greasy. And then he works 7 more years for Rachel. So he's 14 years in, and he has 2 wives, a bunch of children, and no money, right? So now he needs something to feed these kids, right? He's been busy. So here we go. And it came to pass. Let me think here. Do I want to read all this? Sure, why not? And it came to pass, when Rachel had borne Joseph, that Jacob said unto Laban, Send me away, that I may go unto my own place, and to my own country. Give me my wives and my children, for whom I have served thee, and let me go, for thou knowest my service which I have done thee. Laban said unto him, Tarry. Laban said unto him, I pray thee, if I have found favor in thine eyes, tarry, for I have learned by experience that the Lord had blessed me for thy sake. And he said, Appoint me thy wages, and I will give it. And he said unto him, Thou knowest how I have served thee, and how thy cattle was with me. For it was little which thou hadst before I came, and it is now increased unto a multitude. And the Lord hath blessed thee since my coming. And now when I shall provide for mine own house also. And he said, What shall I give thee? And Jacob said, Thou shalt not give me anything. If thou wilt do this thing for me, I will again feed and keep thy flocks. And now I'm going to switch over to a different Bible version, because I want it to be very clear that you can see what happened. I don't want anybody to get lost in the Old English. What shall I give you? He asked. Don't give me anything, Jacob replied. But if you will do this one thing for me, I will go on tending your flocks and watching over them. Let me go through all your flocks today and remove from them every speckled and spotted sheep, every dark-colored lamb, and every spotted or speckled goat. They will be my wages. Okay, so when you guys read this, there's a bunch of sheep already, right? Predominantly, they're white and black. And there's the odd speckled one, right, that comes out that nobody really wants. Okay. So he says, Let me go through all your flocks today, remove from them every speckled and spotted sheep, and every dark-colored lamb, and every spotted and speckled goat, and they will be my wages. So the goats and sheep that are already there, he says, give me those speckly ones. They'll be my wages. You keep all the rest, and we'll go forward. And Jacob says, My honesty will testify for me in the future whenever you check on the wages you have paid me. Any goat in my possession that is not speckled or spotted, or any lamb that is not dark-colored, will be considered stolen. So that's a weird way of saying every white one will be yours, and dark one will be yours, but every one that's off-colored will be mine. You will consider that I stole it from you. Right? So it's a weird way of saying. Agreed, said Laban. Let it be as you have said. Okay, so right now there's one flock. It's got both their sheep in it. Right? That same day, Laban, he removed all the male goats that were streaked and spotted, and all the speckled and spotted female goats, all that had white on them, and all the dark-colored lambs, and he placed them in the care of his sons. So there's a few sheep that Laban has allowed to give to Jacob, but he is going to take those sheep, let's call them the tainted sheep. He's going to give them to his sons, and Jacob now only has pure black and white sheep, and the only wages Jacob will get is from those pure black and white sheep if they produce weird speckled spotted ones. Meanwhile, all the weird speckled spotted ones are gone. Seems like the odds are stacked against him, right? And then he will put a 3-day journey between himself and Jacob, while Jacob continued to tend the rest of Laban's sheep. So right away, Jacob's not even in charge of his own wages. His wages are gone with the other guys. So he doesn't even get to tend his own sheep. And this is like after they had the handshake, this is when they get separated, right? So that wasn't part of the handshake. Laban's very greasy. Jacob, however, took fresh cut branches from popular almond and plane trees and made white stripes on them by peeling the bark and exposing the whiter inner wood of the branches. Then he placed and peeled the branches in all the watering troughs, so that they would be directly in front of the flocks when they came to drink, when the flocks were in heat and came to drink. So when it was baby making time, he would put these weird colored wood in the watering troughs so that the sheep would see them while they were drinking water. And by the sounds of it, they mated in front of the branches. So I guess that's when the male sheep took advantage of the female sheep when they were drinking water. And they bore young that were streaked and speckled and spotted. Well, what is it? That's where I'm going to pause. What is that? What is it? This is what I want. Say that again, Ken. Sorry, stop. This is where I want your opinion. I want people to chime in with their thoughts. Go ahead, Ken.
I think God gave Jacob the idea to do that.
I want you to be very specific. How did God do that?
Probably talked to him on a one-on-one basis.
If you know anything about husbandry and animals, it's as clear as the nose on your face. When you put spotted animals with the clear and they're male, they're going to breed and they're going to have some meat.
It didn't happen.
It's just a given.
But they didn't have
You say that again, Eileen, because I don't think.
Husbandry, it's to do with breeding of animals. When you have the animals that are marked,
What do you mean by that?
the ones that have the spots and the different colors on them,
They were taken away. Those ones are gone.
but they're coming back to the water, are they not?
No.
Oh, they got water in both places?
They're not. They're separate. 3 days. They're not coming back for a drink for a 3-day journey.
Just the solid colored ones.
We're talking about only solid color animals now. Speckled are all gone. 3 days away.
Then birthing speckled ones is very low.
The odds of them birthing speckled ones are very low from an old sheep herder. Right?
If you take a white, pure white, and a pure black and breed them, you're likely to get females black.
Well, you're likely to get a white or a black one.
No, you're likely also to get mixed,
It's the future of Jacob.
I believe.
That's what considered God. Because he knew that all the sheep were going to be.
Okay, it's too early for this. I'm going to keep reading. I'm sorry. I don't think you guys have enough information yet. Jacob set apart the young of the flock by themselves, but made the rest face the streaked and dark-colored animals that belonged to Laban. Sorry. Let me go back one. They mated in front of the branches, and they bore young that were streaked or speckled or spotted. Okay, so they looked at this weird wood, they mated, and they got speckled and spotted offspring. Jacob set apart the young of the flock by themselves, but made the rest face the streaked and dark-colored animals that belonged to Laban. Thus he made separate flocks for himself and did not put them with Laban's animals. Whenever the stronger females were in heat, Jacob would place the branches in the troughs in front of the animals, so they would mate near the branches. But if the animals were weak, he would not place them there. So the weak animals went to Laban and the strong ones to Jacob. In this way the man grew exceedingly prosperous and came to his own large flocks and the female and male servants and camels and donkeys. Now, when you go to the King James, that last verse is not the same. And it says here, the man increased exceedingly and had much cattle and maidservants and men servants and camels and asses. It does not say that was a direct result from what he did. Okay? So I'm going to go with the King James on that. That the Bible does not specifically say that it's a result of what he did. Okay? So, if we go on down to, we're in Genesis 31 now, back to the King James. So years go by and Laban's sons are mad because Jacob's got all the wealth. And he realizes that their father is not the same as he was before. And he sent to his wives and said, we should get out of here. And if you want to join me in verse 6, 31 verse 6. And you know that with all my power I have served your father. Your father has deceived me and changed my wages 10 times, but God suffered him not to hurt me. If he said thus, the speckled shall be thy wages, then all the cattle bear speckled. And if he said thus, the ring-straked shall be thy hire, then bear all the cattle ring-straked. I don't know what ring-straked means, to be honest.
What's the other translation of that?
Striped. Who says striped? As opposed to speckled.
Striped. So striped and spotted. Have you ever seen striped sheep? Striped like a tiger? Or a zebra? Anyways, that's not the point. It's just interesting to think about. Thus God had taken away the cattle of your father and given them to me. And it came to pass at the time that the cattle conceived, that I lifted up my eyes and saw in a dream, and behold, the rams which leaped upon the cattle were ring-straked and speckled and gristled. And the angel of the Lord spake unto me in a dream, saying, Jacob. And I said, Here I am. And he said, Lift up now thine eyes and see, all the rams which leap upon the cattle are ring-straked, speckled, and gristled. For I have seen all that Laban doeth unto thee. I am the God of Bethel, where thou anointest the pillar, and where thou vowest a vow to me. And now arise and get thee out from this land, and return unto the land of thy kindred. And Rachel and Leah answered and said unto him, Is this there yet any portion, our inheritance for us in our father's house? Are we not counted of him as strangers? For he hath sold us and hath devoured also our money. For all the riches which God had taken from our father, that is ours and our children's. Now then, whatsoever God hath said unto thee, do. Okay. Now we should have that discussion. God said to Jacob in a dream, the cattle that are going to get born are all going to be ring-straked, speckled, and spotted. Okay? Jacob takes that information, makes a deal with Laban about his future wages. I'll take all the ring-straked, speckled, and spotted. And then he proceeds to put weird wood in the watering trough to change the color of the cattle. what is him putting this weird wood in the watering trough? What is that?
Faith.
Is that faith? Is that deceit? Is he being dishonest?
It says that he breeds them with the stripe at the watering trough.
Say that again.
He breeds them with the stripe at the watering trough.
What?
Yes, it did say that.
Read
What?
it, read it.
Say that again.
Jacob breeds the pure ones with the stripe at the watering trough.
But not the original ones that Laban took away. You see what I'm saying?
Husbandmen.
Originally, he took the strippled ones and took them 3 days away.
But he kept the ones that Laman had and took the striped ones away. So
Correct.
he bred them to the clear ones so that he would.
Correct. So, right from the beginning, Laban took away all the speckled ones. He only has black and white.
Only took him a couple of years.
So these ones produce black speckled ones. But what I'm saying is, from the beginning, Laban really made the odds bad for him. That's well, I'm just highlighting the greasiness of Laban. He started getting speckled and spotted ones right away because of God's providence. So it was okay.
Out of the plain black and white ones.
Out of the plain black and white ones. Okay, so in the dream, he says God told him that there will be speckled and spotted sheep. Now, he takes that information and decides to put weird wood in the trough. God did not tell him to put the weird wood in the trough.
It's another deceit.
So, is it another deceit? Or is it faith? What is it? This is what's bothered me for a long time.
Jacob could tell Laman it's because of the wood that was in the mouth.
He wasn't going to tell anybody about because it was the wood. He didn't tell anybody until he told his wives when it was time to leave, to run away.
It's a pagan breed.
Well, there was that as well. They were surrounded by pagan nations, right?
And when they took off, they stole the pagan idols and took them with them.
Rachel did steal an idol. I don't know about a pig.
The family.
She did her own thing there. I don't think she smuggled a pig because I'm pretty sure that would be hard to hide. But there was an idol for sure. So anyways, faith and works, right? It says here, James, right? James 2:22. Even so faith, if faith hath not works, it's dead being alone. Yea, a man may say, Thou hast faith, and I have works. Show me thy faith by thy works, and I will show thee my faith by my works. Thou believest that there is one God, thou believest well. The devils believe and tremble. But wilt thou, O vain man, with that faith without works is dead? Was not Abraham our father justified by works when he had offered Isaac his son upon the altar? So Abraham took his kid to get crucified because the Lord told him to, and he's counted for that being his works as a part of his faith, even though he did the thing with Ishmael and Hagar, right? Which wasn't so faithful.
That was a custom of the country in
But-
which he lived in, to sacrifice.
Yes, that was as well. Seest thou how faith wrought with his works, and by his works faith made perfect? And the scripture was fulfilled which saith, Abraham believed God, and it was imputed unto him for righteousness. And he was called the friend of God. Yea, see then how that by works a man is justified, and not by faith only. Likewise, also was not Rahab the harlot justified by works, when she had received the messengers and had sent them out another way? For as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is dead also. Now, I mean, Rahab was kind of just saving her own neck, really. But what she did was she believed the legend of God and the people of Israel. You have your hand up?
As you were reading, I'm just thinking that it showed me that even though I have done something wrong in the past, God doesn't, and He asked me to do something in the future, He does not use that against me. when I'm doing what he asked me to do. So when Rahab did what she, although the life that she had, and God gave her that dream, the angel came to her and says, you know, this is what I want you to do, and she did it. God holds us for righteousness at the time that we do what we are supposed to do.
Are you sure Rahab had a dream?
Well,
I don't know about that.
well, okay, she didn't have a dream. My bad, I take that back. But how did she know to hide the man?
Basically, because she believed the rumors of them conquering the land and all the things that happened in Egypt.
I believe the Holy Spirit put that on her heart for her to do.
Sure, 100%.
So it's God's guidance and how God, the way God does stuff doesn't always make sense to us. And his plans goes the way he wants it, even though like we get up this morning and we have plans. Things go wrong and we wonder why it goes wrong, but yet we ask God to lead us. And then when he's leading us, like, no, this is my plan, Lord, you gotta do what I want. But we're not letting God lead us because it's like, the Lord says, okay, that's not part of the plan that I want you to do. And we do. So I'm just saying, you're reading it and it's like, Jacob did what God asked him to do, and then it's like, if you put this in there, then this is gonna happen, you'll have this talk, and then you can pick up and go. So, it's God's leading, it doesn't make sense to us a lot of times, and a lot of times we have hindsight, and it's like, ooh, I could have done that back then, or I could have done this back then, or did it this way, or it's like, if I didn't do it this way, what would have happened? There's always hindsight. But God's way is not always understanding in the moment when we're doing things.
You said something God told him to do.
You say he had a dream
Yeah.
to do what he had to do.
To do what?
To go back and read 31, 30.
Lawrence has something to say.
Yeah. Okay. And the angel of the Lord spoke unto him in a dream. And said to him,
See, all the rams which leap upon the cattle are ring-straped, speckled, and gristled, for I have seen all that Laban hath done to thee. So he didn't tell Jacob to do anything. All he said was see.
See the result.
Go ahead, Florence.
Okay, I will connect that scene with 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 18. But we all, with open face, beholding as in a glass the glory of the Lord, are changed into the same image from glory to glory, even as by the Spirit of the Lord. So in short, it means we become what we behold.
Oh?
According to...
So you're telling me that the principle, by beholding we become changed,
Yeah,
that's what you believe
Yeah.
made the sheep speckled and spotted? By
Yeah.
beholding
Yeah.
the different colored wood,
yeah,
they were changed from perfectly black and white to speckled and spotted.
yeah, we become what we behold.
So don't you think that's what he was thinking? He was thinking that, and that's what happened? What do you mean?
That's my understanding.
Lucky I wasn't looking at speckled wood when Martha was.
That's my understanding.
It's husbandry. When you get speckled animals with a pure, you get more speckled.
Okay, so
I wasn't finished mine. The information God gave him, God expected him to use it. Because God doesn't reveal something to us for us to sit on it and do nothing about it. Because then there's no faith that works. So he acted on what God showed him. Loved it.
I'm also thinking that if you have animals and you have a water trough and you put a bunch of stuff in it, quite often the animals will stick their head in it and pull it back out because they're sharp. So therefore, they're not going to be drinking, they're going to be breathing. That's animal.
I just wonder how far we should go when it comes to my way and my thoughts is not yours. And your God's ways and his thoughts, it's so different, like basically opposite. So I don't know how far to go for that.
So, I'll just tell you right now, I looked through the Spirit of Prophecy, and she has no comments on this. Okay. Other commentators do have comments on it. And unfortunately, all the other commentators don't agree. They all kind of, they're all over the map.
That's a God question. Jesus question.
Not as though it were sufficient of itself to produce such an effect, which any person that will make the trial will find it is not, but as the means which God would bless in order to do to it, and which Jacob was required to use in the testimony of his dependence on God, as Naaman was required to wash in the river Jordan. So this commentator likens it to Naaman going to wash 7 times in the river Jordan. Any one of us could go wash 7 times in the river Jordan, and I mean, maybe you'll have baby perfect skin when you get out, but I don't know. You know, if that was a thing, I'm pretty sure every nation in the world would be making pilgrimages to the river Jordan every year. Right? So, the other thing that they brought up was, in order to his being cured of his leprosy, much being said by the authors concerning the surprising effects which impressions made upon the imaginations of pregnant animals will have upon the form, shape, and color of the young. Some guy, doctor, whoever. That is, it cannot be proved that the method which Jacob used is a natural and effectual way to produce these colored cattle. So, there's no modern science to say, like, hey, if the sheep are looking at a certain color of wood while they mate, that they're, you know, if there was, we'd have some pretty cool sheep these days, right? We'd have Picassos in the watering troughs, and the sheep would be mating, and all of a sudden you'd have the Mona Lisa on the side of one of your sheep, right? Like, of course we would exploit that if that worked. Whatever. Leonardo. We would have the rooftop painting on another sheep, right? Exactly. Everybody would have their own sheep. It'd be great. Okay, so when you say he stepped out in faith and did this, modern day science doesn't back that up, right? But, like we said with Naaman, modern day science doesn't really back up the fact that if you go wash 7 times in the Jordan, you'll have baby skin. The same as Hezekiah putting the figs on his boil. Now, I looked that up, and that is a thing. They do use figs for boils. But he was the point of death. So if you have a little thing on your skin, the odds are you can make a fig poultice and it might help. But if you're on your deathbed, I don't think that's going to do the trick. Go. Did the fig poultice start there? Probably. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so in that way, like, God gave us natural, like, it was a miracle because God showed them how to do it. You know what I mean? They probably weren't doing it before that. So, yes, that was a miracle. But, so this guy talks about Hezekiah and the figs. Jacob used the rods in obedience to a special divine direction without knowing anything of their natural virtue. The effect must still be ascribed immediately to God himself. just as in the case of Hezekiah. Now this guy actually thought that it worked. Okay? So this guy proposes that it worked, but it worked so well that he got all the sheep, and then it caused this problem between him and the family of Laban where he had to leave in secret, just kind of like he ran away from Esau. This is the story of his life. He burns his bridges and has to run. And so he's like, look, if he would have just had faith in God, because God said in the dream, they are happening. See what I am doing. And he took it one step further upon himself and helped God and made it work too well. And now he has an enemy that thinks that he stole all his sheep. And it's just like, I don't know about, maybe. I don't know about that either. You know what I mean? So all I'm saying is this sermon of mine is about making decisions with what you believe God is leading you to do. And sometimes it's hard to know. It is unclear how or if these striped branches impacted the mating of the animals. The Bible simply records that Jacob did, and the result in the flock with no explanation. Some try to find a natural explanation to the account of Jacob's striped branches and the resulting speckled flocks. Some theorize that Jacob, through a lifelong experience with sheep, knew that something in the branches would cause the animals to be sexually stimulated and to mate more often. He placed the branches strategically to breed those animals more likely to produce speckled and spotted offspring. A better view is that God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, supernaturally intervened to increase Jacob's flock. Jacob may have relied on his own efforts, tainted as they were by the pastoral folklore, but God had determined to bless him anyways. So,
Can I say something?
go ahead.
I went through natural remedies and for my cancer, and later on I learned that the faith is very important, and whatever God says, and how much I actually trust in Him, He will take care of the rest of it. We must do everything possible we can to do, because it's a faith issue here. Faith, trusting God, and do everything possible you can, and God will step in and then determines the final. And I'm still here 15 years later.
Praise the Lord. So, Jacob had a dream. And God showed him in this dream that the cattle will all be speckled and spotted. The faith that he should have had, in my mind, he made the deal. That was the faith. He said, God showed me in a dream that all the cattle are going to be speckled and spotted. The deal I'm going to make with what's his name for the wages is that the cattle that I get will be speckled and spotted. That was huge faith right there. Instead of saying, hey, I want some money. No, I'm going to have faith that these pure black and white sheep are going to produce not black and white sheep. They're going to produce speckled and spotted. So there's faith there to make the deal in the first place. Amen. Right? So is that the works that goes along with the faith? He had a dream. He made a deal because God showed him the dream. I'm going to finish. And then you can keep going. And then he proceeds further to use the wood in the trough, which science doesn't really back up. Now, is that more faith or is that lack of faith? Is he panicking now that he made this deal and he's like, oh man, what else can I do to make this happen? Or is he like, that's more faith? Like, I don't know. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I was just saying so that is what it means, having faith, beholding on Jesus, beholding on God, looking to God.
Amen.
The biggest thing in the end of time will be Jacob's trouble. We will enter into the similar where Jacob entered when he was wrestling with Christ. We will be tested over and over again before the time of trouble, if we live that far. And we are facing challenges constantly. But the very final wrestling will be the greatest ever wrestling. Is every one of us.
Amen. Sorry.
I have the faith that those branches started to grow because they were watered and created new trees. That's positive thinking.
Okay, so here's the genetic makeup of what, like, there's a whole article here on genetics and stuff. I'm not going to go through it, but basically the male has the X and Y, and the female has the XX, and this is how it would happen for them to produce a speckled and spotted one. I don't have much to add to that because I don't. That's Eileen's husbandry right there, yeah.
Is it possible that the branch, and I think it was alerted that earlier, that the branch in the water just caused them to breed more often and breed with each other, that this speckled ones came about?
So you're saying that's an aphrodisiac?
Yes, for the animals. Because if it was left up to, if he didn't put that in there, like you said, maybe he was panicking that this is going to take too long and, you know, it will be a natural occurrence. But he helped it by putting the branch in there that got them all heated, so, you know, instead of mating once a week, once or twice a week, once a month, they were every day.
Is that faith or is that lack of faith?
To me, it's faith. If God said this is what he's going to do, and, you know, it's going to happen.
Go ahead.
Have you ever seen animals drinking from a water trough? They usually drink till they're full, and then they go and eat. If they've got sticks standing up in there, that pokes on them, they're not going to drink that much. So
I don't-
they're going to be more interested in the other animals that are
I
there.
don't think they're poking up Eileen. I think they're laid flat on the bottom, but
Well, they say that, didn't it say that he made points to them?
no. Not that I'm aware of. I might have missed it,
Well,
but
that's another thing when you talk about kicking against the gourds. The gourds have points on them. And isn't this what they put around? That's how I read it.
No, that's
I would have to. I'm not prepared to go down that road, but we can talk about that after.
God told Abraham he would have an ear, and Sarah, to help God, went and got what
Hagar.
Hagar.
and he blessed her.
To help God. So that's why we have so many.
That's grace. Is it grace?
So God said something,
Yeah, he told Abraham.
and Abraham couldn't wait. Well, first of all, Abraham had a decision to make. There's a section on this, but Abraham is told something by God.
Yes.
And then Abraham is told something by his wife. And then Abraham has to make a decision about whether he is going to wait on God or take means into his own hands. And so this is why this is so interesting to me. Because both stories would seem that the person making the decision did the opposite thing. Abraham went and took matters into his own hands with Hagar, Jacob took matters into his own hands with the weird wood, and the group seems to be telling me that the one with the wood was acting in faith, and the one that essentially did the same thing in a weird, way different way, like this, but took the same path and decision, is being regarded as not having faith. Do you see the problem?
God allows certain things to happen. God allows things to happen whether we follow what his guidance are, and it's called consequences. Let's say he didn't put the branch in the trough. Maybe he wouldn't have to leave. There wouldn't be so much ascension within the ranks, within the family. Maybe he wouldn't have to leave if he waited on God. But because he did that, he then now has to leave in the middle of the night. And there was, arguments within the family. The same thing with Abraham. Had he waited, Hagar wouldn't have had the 2 kids, and he wouldn't have sent her away just to please Sarah, and then all of this wouldn't have happened. The Lord allows things to happen for us to go through our consequences, to see that what we did outside of what he asked us to do, it's a consequence. The same way as when we do things as parents, our children faces those consequences. Our lives, the decisions that we make, it falls on on our children, and they in turn live out our consequences. And we see that, and it's like, oh, what have I done? And then we try to guide the child in the direction it should go and stuff like that. So I'm thinking that it's just, God gives us a choice to make, and we make that choice, and it's either consequence in a negative way or a blessing on the other side.
Thank you for your thoughts. I'm trying to avoid the consequence way. I'm trying to put together a study here that's going to give you the tools to make the choice that's not going to have consequences.
Yes, but yeah,
But it's not easy.
no.
I'm going to cut you guys off very soon. You might be the last one, Glenn. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say, there seems to me there are many stories in the Bible that aren't easily understood because a little bit of information that could have been given or it isn't.
True story.
There's stories you think, well, then what happened? Or how did that happen? We really just don't know about these peeling the branches and sticking them in the water. We don't know the story. I mean, was he inspired to do this? He might have been. This wasn't included as information. Or it might not have been. We just don't know that. That's my take on it. I don't think my salvation depends on me understanding those things.
But being able to move forward in decisions in your own life from the examples that are given by the Bible is very important.
Yes, true. Amen.
That's why I go to the stories where it is clear.
I like Proverbs 11, verse 14 that you showed, where there is no counsel. He called we to the light. Go to the light.
Sorry. Yeah, I skipped that. We got to go to that.
Yeah.
Here's some verses that I found. Proverbs 11:14. Where no counsel is, the people fall, but in the multitude of counselors there is safety.
Yeah.
Without counsel, purposes are disappointed, but with a multitude of counselors they are established. As you should, hopefully you're picking the right counselors. Planning and thinking ahead. For which of you intending to build a tower sitteth not down first and counteth the cost, whether he have sufficient to finish it? The simple believe every word, but the prudent man looketh well to his going. A man's heart deviseth his way, but the Lord directed his steps. I want to go to one last one before we close. I think this went longer than I thought it would. Casting lots. That was they did that for the sanctuary service. They did that to pick Jonah. In the Old Testament, they did it to pick between Jonathan and the rest of the army for who needed to be killed that day because they didn't listen to Saul's oath of not eating till the end of the battle. And so in the Old Testament, this casting lots thing seems to be a legit thing. Now, casting lots is like drawing straws or flipping a coin. Like, today, you wouldn't probably make huge, big spiritual decisions on flipping a coin.
Yeah, but Justice Matthias in place of Judah.
Exactly. That was a big decision,
Yeah.
right? Draw straws. Like, basically, flip a coin between these two guys. Heads or tails. Right? So things kind of change because we're more of a spiritual, after, Christ's ascension, we're no longer in the sanctuary, what do you call them? Service anymore. It's more of a spiritual relationship that we all have individually with God. There's other things they did to make decisions. Like Jonathan looked for a sign. He's like, those soldiers over there, if they tell us to come to them, then we're going to kill them. If they told them to stay here and they'll come to us, then we got to run. Right? Like, what? Like, right? Like, there's some pretty wild ways that are big, that's life and death, that decision. Right? That's a life and death decision by what some stranger over there is going to say.
That was life and death, no matter what they do.
Right? You know? That's where I'm going right now, because that one's interesting to me. I want to point out something to you guys about that. Isaac's wife, Rebecca. The servant says to God, God, I'm going to go to the watering trough, and if a girl comes up and gives me water and offers it for my camels, that will be Isaac's wife. Right? Like if I go to the grocery store tomorrow and stand by the bread aisle and say, God, if a girl grabs a loaf of bread off of this aisle and gives it to me, that will be my wife.
As long as it's Silver Springs.
I have,
Right? Like,
you remember,
You're leaving out God.
Spiritual.
what do you mean?
Well, like, for Eliezer going to get Isaac, the wife,
Yeah.
God directed that.
Yes.
So you're saying he only ended up there because Abraham was a very godly man and told him to go there?
Rebecca only ended up watering the camels because she was influenced by God.
Isn't that a woman's chore every day? Like, isn't that how Moses met his wife? The women came out and watered the animals? Like,
She
that's
didn't
a...
have to offer to a stranger to water his camels. He could have done that himself.
do you remember Peasgood?
I thought I was going to cut you guys off. What? Go ahead.
Do you remember Peasgood? What's his first name?
Ted.
Doesn't, hey?
Ted. Ted.
That is,
Ted Peasgood.
Yes.
Irene prayed in a Christian home who she was boarding with to send a man to her house that was kind, that had a job, that was decent, and she made a whole bunch of list of things. He came with a porter, Ted Peasgood came with a co-porter to this home to visit. And he, after the dinner, he helped her dry the dishes and what have you, and he was asking her for her phone number. And she was holding off. That night she went upstairs and said, is that the man, Laura? She had asked and he filled in every spot. And then she went back to the people she was living with and asked him to please get the young fellow's name. And the phone number. So then she phoned Ted and told him, gave her her phone number, and today they're married and have several children. It was an answer to prayer, specific prayer that Irene had prayed in a Christian home, in a Christian spirit. So these things do happen.
What about the woman who went through the phone book and prayed for you and Jonah?
Yeah.
Mrs. Ford.
Mhm. And also for Jack and
I can't find it. Give me 1 second. I want to go to the fleece story. And then we're going to close. Gideon and the fleece. Anybody know where that is? It should be, hold on. Judges what? I thought I had it here, but I don't know what happened to it.
Judges 6, 36 to 40.
Judges 6.
36 to 40.
This is what I want to finish with. This is me closing. Taking up enough of your time. 12:40. And Gideon said unto God, if thou wilt save Israel by mine hand. So at this point, God has already told Gideon that he was going to save Israel by his hand. I think a few chapters back, right? And then he goes and breaks the Baal image. And then we're a few chapters in the future. So he already knows that God has said he is going to save Israel through his hand. All right? And Gideon said unto God, if thou wilt save Israel by mine hand, as thou hast said, behold, I will put fleece in the floor, and we know the fleece story. Twice in this passage it says here, thou, as thou hast said. What is that? God tells you, look, I'm going to save LILLOOET by your hand, Thyra. And then, 3 weeks later, the crisis comes, and you're like, whoof, I better put a fleece in the floor. Because God already told me that he was going to save LILLOOET by my hand, but I'm just making sure. Is that lack of faith, or... 100%. Before, when I guess I always glassed over it and never really realized. I thought that this fleece portion of the story was where he got the call. But that's not where he got the call. He already had the call. So is the fleece story a lack of faith or faith?
God knows our frame, and he knows, he just knows, and especially with the small army like he had to go and face, it was just odds against.
And at least with reassurance.
And I think also it's like me saying, can I really do this? Even God called me to do this, but with all my faults and all, like.
What's the faith
God,
chapter?
God, can I, what's the faith chapter?
Yeah. Oh, it's 11. Keep going. Sorry. What were you saying?
No, I'm just saying that, it's us not trusting ourselves to trust God. And like it's been said, it's our frail. God knows what we are capable of, but we ourselves are not sure we are capable of doing that, especially leading Israel. It's not like leading my family. It's not leading a couple of people. This is like leading Israel. It's a big calling. So he had to be sure. I would have to be sure.
Anyways, Gideon's in the faith chapter. Let's close. Lord, we just thank you so much for your kindness in dealing with us, and that you are a merciful God. And we just pray that you'll bless